Hello, everyone, and welcome back. It's been a few weeks, but we're back with episode 19 of the Ready, Set, Shag podcast, where I sit down with some of the most influential people on the internet and people that I've admired and viewed from afar. And I finally get to sit down with someone that, I don't know, it's been a long time coming since I started red pilling myself in 2020. I stumbled across this person, and it immediately became apparent that I've been led in many wrong directions throughout my life, and finally got the courage to reach out and speak with him. And I'm really excited. He is a trans activist, sex toy designer, and an entrepreneur. Buck Angel, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good. Oh, my friend, first off, thank you so much for reaching out. And it was me. We were going to be doing this so many other times, but my schedule just gets so crazy. So I just want to say first off that I really appreciate you reaching out to me, and you seem like such a cool dude. And I'm super happy to be here today. So thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. And everyone who is catching this on a VOD or here live, I appreciate you guys being here and, of course, listening in on this conversation, because I think something that's missing from the culture in general is being able to sit down and talk with people we agree with, people that we don't agree with, and being able to hash those topics out. And really, I guess one of the reasons I wanted to have you on originally, Buck, was that I was lifelong Democrat and was sort of started during COVID. I started realizing that a lot of the stuff I'd been told, or the people that I had been told they're supposed to think a certain way, and I started realizing that's not really true. And people like yourself were pushing hard back against the narrative, and I wanted to know more, and especially with a lot of the stuff that's been going on in the trans community, and finding out, because when I first heard you, it was on Gothix's podcast, Subtweet This, and I could not believe, like, as I was sitting there listening to it, I was like, what is going on? Like my whole world, like the paradigm was shattered, and I don't, how, as someone who is new to the, getting your voice out there, was getting your voice out originally like something difficult, like getting the word out that like this stuff was happening, or like as you started seeing it happen in mainstream? I don't know, tell us a little bit about that, like how this all came
Right.
about.
Great question. Because it wasn't. So I've been around I transitioned 31 years ago, right? From a female to live as a male. I'm a biological female. Let me just get all that stuff out right now.
Yeah.
So everybody knows I'm full on attached to my biology. I'm a biological female who transitioned to live and look like a man. That's why I look this way. That being said, I'm not like you. I'm a different kind of dude. But so with that, I've had 30 years experience in my transition. I transitioned before there was even the internet or any of that. Thank God. But so my activism was always sort of around myself and my body, and sort of learning how to get all that stuff together, blah, blah, blah. I worked in the porn industry. I create sex toys. I do also, it's really kind of positive towards body sort of reclaiming, if that makes sense. But I've always acknowledged my biology. So here I see the trans community taking a left turn, dude. Not even a left turn, maybe a U-turn. I don't even know. I'm just like, what? They started saying stuff like, trans women are what is it? People have uteruses, people have periods, just insane stuff, right? Trans women are women. I'm like, wait a minute here. And then I lost it, man. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm not okay. That's a lie. That is actually going to create a bad space for trans people. I've lived an awesome life, dude. People don't hate me. I mean, look at me, and you could probably sit down and have a beer and like no one would even care about it. But that's how I've always lived as a transsexual. So I saw nasty stuff, and I said, I've got to step up, especially as a sort of elder and somebody who's this has been such a beautiful experience for me. And because of my honesty to the world, I've always been honest. So people come back to me honestly. And I just stepped my foot in the arena, dude. The trans activists were ripping me apart. I'm just like, what world are we living in? So I'm not that dude, man. You can probably tell I'm a fighter. So I'm like, oh no, you will not tell me how to speak or how. I put my time and energy into this community before many of you even became trans. So anyway, that's kind of, I did it in a fighting spirit, and I did it in, I'm allowed to be here too, right? And they hate me. They hate me. The trans activists, not trans people, trans activists.
Yeah. Well, and so I've caught your segments too. There was one I think you did with Charlie Kirk where you're
Mhm.
debating a debate night with Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
And that was interesting too because you do delineate between sex and gender. Is that right? So you like,
Well, that's a great question, by the way. And I'm also want to let you know that I'm the guy that will say something maybe 4 years ago and have a different opinion today.
yeah,
And I always own up to that. That's called growth to me. And you
yes,
are allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to go back. I will say probably 4 years ago, I would have said sex and gender are different. Whereas today, I think that's a dangerous statement because
okay,
now they're trying to say they're different when they're not. And so
okay,
as I grew into this space, nope, you know what? That's a dangerous statement to make. They're the same thing.
yeah,
So I would say that before I was trying to sort of say it so that trans people can feel more comfortable sort of moving into their gender as long as they acknowledged their biology, right? Which is
right,
sex. They
yeah,
weren't. They weren't acknowledging their biology. They're saying anyone can choose whatever gender they need to be. And
yeah,
without acknowledging the fact that you're a biological male or female, that's when I pulled back on that, if that makes sense. And I said, if
yeah.
we're not going to be able to sort of reel this in if we don't make gender and sex the same thing.
Yeah, I've so recently I've actually taken to TikTok, which I'm sure you understand the cesspool that is TikTok. And I don't have enough to do like my own lives, but a lot of these creators have opened their lives to anybody. So I've
Mhm.
jumped in and I've discussed while I'm also live on YouTube that there's a lot of pro-life ones, but there's also a lot of like trans women are women, and I've even seen one recently that said um like I'm a biological woman, but it was very obviously a trans woman.
Yeah,
And and
that's right.
really the argument almost became like, well, I'm a biological creature. I identify as a woman, so therefore I'm like, but if we're
No,
just removing the meaning of these words, like what does it matter? And like,
yeah,
are we just totally removing biological women from the equation and everything that they fought for? And that's
yep,
kind of where I'm drawing the line is like
yep.
we have to at least acknowledge that your biology is different from my biology. Like maybe there's some like neurochemistry that's the same, but even then I mean,
No,
we're on two different levels, it would seem. I don't know. And it's
that's
not the
right.
case always, but
No, but
um
come on, dude. We're on the same level there. I am not the same as you. We are
right.
completely different. If we got naked, you would totally see it. And
Right.
that's that. I also don't shoot sperm. I can't
Right.
get
Right.
somebody pregnant. I mean, I could go on and on here, right?
Yeah.
I have pretend testicles. Like, let's just be real about this. Like
Yeah.
that being said, no, your biology is biology. See what they're doing? They're twisting it. That's called gaslighting. And
Yeah.
well, I'm a biological creature. No one said you weren't.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you want to call yourself a biological creature, you go right ahead.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to be, but you're a biological male. If you are
Yeah.
a trans woman, you are a biological male. And my friend, we never had an issue with this in our community ever. We always acknowledged our biology. It's this new breed
Yeah.
of something that are very dangerous people who do not connect to what I did. They're pretending there's something that they're not.
Yeah. I guess where do you think this all like um came
Mhm.
from? I mean,
Yeah.
I understand that people want to feel like they fit into society, and kind of
Yeah.
like how I've sort of seen it is I don't think it's the I don't, it's hard
Mhm.
to formulate this without sounding too cold, but I mean throughout our lives like we lose people and some people don't make it through life. I mean it's Darwinian,
Right.
it's a very Darwinian thing to say or think, but
Right.
to some extent there's something to that. We've
That's
we've
right.
come to a point in science, and I think you were right on the threshold where had this not been available to you, you and I might not be sitting here talking because
That's
it
right.
but we were in a place that we could do this for people who seriously need it.
Mhm.
But how do you think this started and became I know transgender is a thing that people have said in the past. Like do you think we're at that point where it's more of a trend, and why do you think it started?
Well, it's a heavy question, and so what I'll say is this: 100%, I think it's a trend. I 100% think it's a social contagion, and the
Mhm.
reason I think that, I remember I'm 61, and I've been doing this for a long time, and I have been doing it prior to the internet, where nobody was hardly trans. When I did
Yeah.
it here in Los Angeles, there was nobody. I was the first person to do it with both of my doctors, and they actually called me a guinea pig. So, but anyway, that being said, We move forward now 30 something years later, and there's 100 billion times more, right? Young people,
Yeah.
especially young girls, 4,000% increase. Anybody in their right mind, I don't care if you're trans, I don't care, you're going to go, wait, these numbers make 0 sense
Yeah.
in no way, shape, or form. But me as an actual transsexual is going, nope, no way, no way. And here, so what I saw is that number one. Then what I saw number two was these certain tropes that were, you don't need gender dysphoria to be trans. That's like saying you don't need cancer to have cancer. It's basically the same. It's like saying I can self-diagnose as having cancer
Right.
because you don't have to have it. So it's exactly the same thing. This is a mental disorder, my friend, even though, so then they're trying to say it's not a mental disorder, that it's just a thing that you feel and you have feelings and that's how you are. I was like, oh, the slippery slope, my friends. I saw it coming. It's like teetering. And then on top of that, I saw tons and tons of new affirmation therapists. I saw tons and tons of this pushing of puberty blockers. I saw tons and tons of more surgeons claiming they were trans and operating on all of these young people under the age of 18. And I'm like, no, this isn't happening. This is now a factory.
Yeah.
And this is I really do believe this. I believe that it has become a financial space and you can pull people into it by not having any rules. There's no rules or regulations. Did you know that? Anyone can be trans. So I'm
Wow.
like, this is sloppy. This isn't even medicine. There's no other diagnosis or anything where you could just go on the internet, get hormones. Do you know how insane that is, dude, to get testosterone on the internet
Yeah.
after a 20-minute intake with a therapist who
Yeah.
doesn't really even care about you? So you see all of those things plugging into place for me. I'm like, wait a minute, these kids. And then the last thing I'm going to say is detransitioners. That
Yeah.
was the last Lego for me, right? That was the
Right.
last thing to build that. And I knew it. I said, that's it. This is not real.
Right. And something I do know, like I know that the detransitioner, the detransitioners seem to be a small portion of people who transition, but
Mhm,
when I look at this from a very like outside perspective,
mhm.
I think this is one of those issues that, I mean, we hear from the left a lot, like if it could save one life, like we should do it, right? But the thing I when I look at the severity of these like surgeries,
Mhm.
the effect that hormone blockers have on kids who are going through puberty, and not even knowing like what the long-term effect is of pausing puberty, whatever, you know what I mean? Like,
Whatever.
yeah, and that to me is like that if it was one person saying that I went through this and I was pushed through really fast, like that's something that we can't ignore. We can't
That's right.
ignore, and like I might be being a bit hyperbolic here, but experimenting on children, like it seems like a big experiment, and
Yeah.
we're going to come very soon to, well, how could we have known? How could we have known that this was bad? And that's what they're going to ask for everyone's forgiveness on the matter.
That's right. No, I
And
say it all the
that's
time. I say that all the time, friend, because you're 100% right there. Why are we doing this to children? That was
yeah,
I forgot that was my actual real last Lego in
yeah,
the castle. Children.
mhm,
I've been transitioned for we never ever spoke about children. Ever. That was never part of the equation. The whole point is to go to a therapist to get out of gender dysphoria, not to get into. They are pulling
right,
these kids into gender dysphoria. I'm like, can't you see it? You're supposed to be trying to have them grow out. That's what they did with me. They gave me years of time to try to figure it out, be a butch lesbian, be this, be that. Nope, couldn't grow out of it. Okay, dude, you're 30. Make your choice. But to do that to a 10-year-old and to lie to 10-year-olds and say, we're going to change your sex or your gender is a lie because you're never
yeah,
going to do that. I've interviewed tons of detransitioners. And lately, I just interviewed a young woman who was on puberty block, trans woman, so a biological male who on 13 went on puberty blockers, destroyed her life. They wanted to make
oh,
her a vagina. They couldn't because her penis didn't grow from the puberty blockers. This is a
oh,
known fact. They had to take
right,
her stomach lining and create a vagina, which now she doesn't even have that anymore. It collapsed and they can't fix it. She's 22, my friend, and she can never go back to living as a man. And she said, maybe they should have given me a chance to live as a gay man and maybe I would have had a better life. I mean, these are the
yeah,
stories that need to be shown out there. You're going to do this to a young child who cannot make that choice ever.
yeah. It's pretty sad, and having two kids of my own and watching
Yeah.
kids grow up in a
Yeah.
I mean, they're the most innocent creatures on the planet, and they look to you as their elder with just this implicit trust. And when I see that there's parents that are pushing this stuff on their kids, I think it's evil. I don't use that word very much, but like that to me is evil.
Yes.
Because they don't know any better. They look to you. I mean, you're a dad. I mean, you know, like your child looks to you for everything. Every answer.
That's right. I mean, can you imagine? It's a betrayal. Not only is it a betrayal from the child to the parent, they are now telling parents. I live in LA. I live in California, right? Ugh, what a. So anyway, dude, they like we're gonna try to pass a law here. Thank God it didn't pass, because it's so. If you don't affirm your child's gender, they will snatch your child. I'm like, in what world do you people live in? First off, they're going to go to CPS where it's overloaded already, and you're going to take a healthy family place and just destroy a family because you think you know what's better. This is what they're doing under the name of trans rights. You don't do that to a child. You try to get the family together and you try to solidify that. I'm very focused on family, by the way. I think family is the number one thing that will help that child grow out of that. And so we have to give the tools to the parents to say, okay, maybe little Susie wants to be Tommy. Well, let little Susie wear a baseball cap, right? And be a tomboy and be cool and like really give her accolades for that. And I bet you she'll grow out of it and she'll be super cool chick.
Yeah. No, I think it's the irony is that with the California law there is that Newsom struck it down, but I believe it passed their Congress, which was even worse to me. But I'm glad that Newsom struck it down and realized that it's not something.
But I don't know how that happened because he's also part of the game. I cannot stand that guy, but he's totally. So I was shocked. I just think he got a lot of pressure from people who donate to him. That's what I think, because people were like really freaked out by that law. It was an absurd law.
Oh yeah. I wanted to go back to what you were saying too about like even you like having gender dysphoria and it being a mental illness. It's something that you hear thrown around a lot. I hear it from people that have no involvement in it. They're on the outside looking in, and I think, well, it is for sure. I do, like, because when I look at you, I don't see someone, whatever this might mean. I don't see someone who's experiencing mental illness. You seem like a very grounded person, and someone who has their faculties in order. Do you think that's because of your transition and like your life before this was like, I don't know, like could you explain a little bit about it
it's a great question. And I do appreciate that so much. And I know you're a sensitive guy, Tom. So also you just don't need to worry about feeling. You can ask me anything. I just need you to know that I'm super chill. If you even called me a tranny, I don't care. Like, and if you even called me she, I actually wouldn't care either. That's sort of how grounded I am around my. But I appreciate that. So that being said, the reason I have a mental disorder, it doesn't make it a bad thing, right? I claim my mental disorder. I always tell you that I have a disorder that's called gender dysphoria, because it's not normal for me as a biological female to feel this way. It is not normal. And it's why I keep saying we should try to get people to get out of it before we keep pulling them into it. So with that, as you know, I tried to get out of it for many, 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 many years. And I just realized I fit better in the world living this way. And for 31 years, I've lived this way, right? And it makes my life happy, but doesn't mean I disconnect from my reality or my disorder. So because I still have the disorder of dysphoria, it's gone away because now the world sees me as male. I go to therapy still. I've been going to therapy for 30 years. It's because I take care of myself, right? I take this as mine. It's not your problem. It's my problem. And that's the difference with what's going on today. The trans community wants it to be your problem, right? They want you to not misgender them. They want you to see cisgender and transgender. They're making it a you problem instead of a me problem. This is my problem that I have. I'm the only one that can take care of this. I'm the only one that can make sure. And I'm supposed to, honestly, as a transsexual person, this is what we've always known. We need to make you comfortable because we are a minority in this world. We've never expected you to make us comfortable. We've always said we understand how it's uncomfortable in this situation and why we try to look like men and women. So when I go to use the dude's toilet, no one says a word to me, right? That's why the toilet thing is a big deal now, because these fake trans people who are coming in and with beards and dresses and saying, I'm a woman, that ruins it for people like me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because those people are not real trans people. Because if they were, that would give them dysphoria. This is how you can call them all out. Because if they actually had real dysphoria, they would never want to have a beard and a dress. They would want to look like a woman and go into the woman's room with no problem.
I have a friend who is a trans woman, and we've talked about this a few times. She's even said, like, well, I don't know if I should say specifically because I don't want to out her conversations, but
Yeah.
but even like she's spoken about how other trans individuals have like kept their their sex organs and been like, it seems if you actually have gender dysphoria, why would you still have that? Because it's not, it would be the opposite of what you have. And so and I thought the same thing, like if this was really something, because I believe it's a very small proportion of the population, but it's serious enough where, like, if it was a thing, you would need to go the whole mile. Now, I'm not. It's not to say anything that you've done something wrong because you haven't.
Right. And I can tell you why I haven't. Don't think I didn't want to. Oh my God, dude, I want to be just like you. And I wanted to pick a big one. But that being said, I'm like, I'll pick that one. But that being said, dude, it just was stupid for me to even think about getting it, right? It's like the operation doesn't work. You have so many complications. Like, this was 30 years ago I wanted to do it. And today it's still horrible. So I chose not to do it because I couldn't, if that makes sense. So it comes to be a point in your life where you have to choose, the things you can change and the things you cannot change. And I chose the things I could change, and the things I can. I like sex, dude. I didn't want to lose my sexual space. And so I had to really get my head around it, and like and then that's kind of why I got into pornography, to be honest with you, is because I wanted to sort of show a different type of body, but I kept it in the realm of pornography. I did not run around the world telling everybody to look at my vagina, right? Like that. No, you had to go to pornography to find my space. And that being said, it helped me, and it helped a lot of other guys like me not get that bottom surgery. But our dysphoria went away because we just sort of understood that we could live in this. Now, when you see these new women talking about their penises and how women have penises and all of that, those are the people that are making it difficult for us, because that is something that, and also, I just have to say this. I think it's different for a woman becoming a man than it is for a man becoming a woman. And the reason I'm going to tell you this is this. I was socialized as a woman, right? So for 30 years of my life, I lived as a woman, totally different space. Those trans women were socialized as men, completely, right? Very pushy, very aggressive. And you can literally see it coming from them.
Oh, yeah.
Pushy, aggressive dudes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty funny to watch. Like, well, the funny part is, and I made a comment about this on one of my debates, and like the patriarchy wins out. Like the funny part is like they'll fight and say like, oh, the patriarchy is this and that, and then in the same breath they'll be like, well, we celebrate trans women. It's like, but that's a man. What is wrong? Like I don't. I acknowledge their personhood. You're a personhood. But like, you have to see the irony in it. Like, people, like, this is insane. Like, you want a man to beat up a woman in a sport. You want a man to win a beauty competition. Like,
that's right.
Holy crap. Like, it's just too bad. And that's what I say in the beginning, like, that we're removing the women's spaces, for people who actually believe that they're a biological man or woman. It's like,
that's right.
We have to be at least honest and start from like an honest premise. And
that's right. That's right. And that's why I told you early on, I've been honest about who I am, and people love me around the world, dude. Right. People just like me because I'm willing to say, no, dude, I'm a chick. I look like this, but this is what's happening down here. And like, we laugh, right? We make fun. We have a good time. Part of really understanding yourself, whatever that is laughing at yourself. And part of finding a great space in the world to make people feel less uncomfortable with you is laughing at yourself. I've traveled the world doing speaking engagements, and I always have the crowd laughing with me, because it literally stops this, oh, we're scared, maybe we should say something wrong around Buck. I'm like, I'm an old tranny, who cares? Like, and then people like, all of a sudden it loosens up, right? And people are just like, woo, asking great questions. And I feel the same with you. Like, it's just, it's a thing, because I think when you do that, then me and you are coming to this with honesty and
Yeah.
truth, and me and you are coming to it to build a bridge. We're not
Mhm.
coming to this to be angry at the world, or and I think that's why having conversations with people who are not trans or don't understand it, and for example, you seeing this insanity out there,
Mhm.
it hurts me that you see that, and it hurts my community that those people are the for on some level the majority of what the world sees.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I wanted to run it back and talk about your time like as a porn star. One of the
sure.
questions that I had was did being in that industry, did it ever make your gender dysphoria worse, or did it
Mm.
help with that?
Great question. I would say in the beginning, right? So I did that 20 years ago. I did porn, and there was nobody. I was the first. I mean, my mom's so happy, right? I was the first.
Yeah.
That being said, I was, and so it was really difficult. And it was like when the internet was just coming in, and porn was like a thing that was happening. But it did in the slightest way. I don't know how else to say it other than the fact that I felt empowered by it because people were pushing against me. And I was like, I told you before, I'm that fighter, right? So I'm like, really? Well, what's wrong with this? So at first it was difficult and I couldn't find anybody. Nobody would shoot movies with me, dude. Like everybody was like, you're the Antichrist. Get away from me. And I would have to do like total solo. And this was back in the day when there was DVD and VHS. I mean, it wasn't
Yeah.
even, you didn't put it on the internet. And so, no, it actually helped alleviate it on some level. And I think it's because I started getting fans and people started writing me about how amazing what I was doing. And it was so unique. And so I think maybe the accolades I got helped me sort of realize that I can be this guy.
Were you surprised at the audience that you had captured at the time? Like did
Totally.
you think like, oh well, I'm a pioneer, but this could like people could either ignore this or
Yeah.
like this could be really good, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know what I mean, you're basically I basically was gambling, right, with anything. When you start something, when you're a pioneer in something, you don't know if it's gonna take off or not. It's that's sort of being an entrepreneur, just taking a chance with something. And so I had no idea even who my market was because again, it didn't exist in the pornography. We know straight porn, gay porn, right, tranny porn, whatever you want to call it. There just wasn't anything. So who's going to be my fan base?
Right.
So it ended up being gay men, which blew me away. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I don't have a penis, so I'm confused. I don't get it." But they ended up being my biggest fan base and were really very, very proactive with me and very much instrumental in raising me into that level. And then it became women. So women now actually are a bigger fan base of mine. I don't do porn anymore, but I think with just in the realm of what I do, it seems like women have really become a bigger fan base for me.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I know nothing really of the porn world other
Yeah.
than, I've consumed it and
Yeah,
it,
it's normal. It's
yeah.
very normal to consume porn. Pretty much everyone does, they'll just never admit it.
Was it like getting into it? What can I ask what
Sure.
brought you to getting into
Yeah,
porn? Were you doing modeling before and that
yeah.
like where you at in your life? It kind of like pulled you there
Yeah.
being in LA or,
So what happened was I was actually married to a professional dominatrix. I don't know if you know the story, but it's a pretty famous story. And so
yeah.
she was a big she saw all like God, man, her list of political people. I would walk in the room, so I'd be like, "Oh, dude, up in the sling." I'm
Yeah.
just like, "Oh," and like I have to just put that back here. So anyway, dude, one day I'm writing a book. So that being said,
Please do.
oh my God, dude, it's crazy the people I saw. And so then, this is out there though. But so, anyways, me and her were just sort of together, and she was in, dominatrix is on some level the porn business, but
Yeah.
she wasn't necessarily making movies. But we started to do this mail order business, and we were making so much money per, like $500 custom movies, dude, for 20 minutes. Oh God, I would go to the post office with like VHS, it's like 50 of them, dude. It was so crazy. So anyway, I just noticed that there was nothing like me on the internet, and she encouraged me, and so that's sort of how I got into making the actual movies. And then
Mhm.
and then from there, she really did encourage me to push forward on that, because she did think it was something very positive. But that's the dominatrix woman who ended up having the affair with the Wachowski brother, Lana, who's Larry Wachowski, but then became Lana Wachowski during the time I was
Oh,
married. Yeah, that was a whole scandal. Oh
wow.
my
I don't know
God,
what.
dude.
I can't believe I don't know this story. That is
Oh, you'll just Google it. Anybody here can
okay.
just Google it. You'll see. It was a crazy, crazy story, dude. And
Okay.
anyways, that was what Larry used to go see her in our dungeon, and then he became all of a sudden a trans woman. Like, it was, the whole thing was so weird.
I think you were influencing people at a very early time in your life, Buck. This is great. You
Oh
really are
my
an
God.
influencer.
Oh my God, please don't say that, because then, it became a whole thing. That did. It became drama, and that then Warner Brothers sent me a cease and desist because I spoke about it in the I forgot what paper it was. And then I was
Mhm.
like, go fuck yourself, cease and desist. This is a real story. I actually told
Yeah.
Warner Brothers, you can't tell me
Wow.
not to talk about this story. Like, are you
Yeah.
insane?
Dang. So flashing forward, because again, you and I share a commonality in that we were both parents. What being, being a trans man and being, what, I guess, did you always want to have a family? And
Oh yeah.
I guess, how did it all come about? Or is it like, did you like, I mean, because again, I don't know the biology behind it. Is it
Sure.
your child from your womb, or is that something that
God
is not
no.
possible?
God
Or
no, dude. Like, that would give me dysphoria. So that's the other thing. When I see pregnant men, I'm just
yeah,
like, why didn't you just stay a chick? That's like the
right,
most feminine thing you could do. I don't care. I don't care what you do, but having a baby is probably at the top of the list of being a woman.
right,
So I'm like, why did you change? That's why a lot of us dudes like me, we're like, what? That is so dysphoria inducing. And there is
right.
something really like wrong with that. So that being said, no, I did not have a
Okay,
baby. No,
okay.
didn't ever want to have a baby, and I never wanted to have kids. But I met my wife now, Rachel, and she had and I didn't know she had a kid when I met her, so I was just like, oh, we're gonna date and have a good time, blah blah. And I wasn't even expecting. And then she brings out the kid, dude, and
Surprise.
I'm like, well, it's getting kind of late. I think I should go. But the kid, like, literally jumped on me, dude, and like, we watched a whole movie that night with the kid just sort of in my lap, and I'm not even gonna tell you, it
Yeah,
it just did something to me. It made me have this desire, for a lack of a better word, and eventually me and Rachel and I got together, and so I just want to, so that being said, Jonah is our son's name, and Jonah has a biological dad, clearly, and he's one of our great, great friends. So
okay.
that was really important to me, that his dad stayed in the family and was part of it, because he still had a connection to his son. And I
Mhm.
really highly admire men who don't bail like that, and he didn't. And so we sort of have a three-way family. I'm the stepdad, and he's the dad, and it's all great, dude. We have such a
Cool.
solid. We all hang out together. We go camping. We do all kinds of stuff together, and it's a solid, solid foundation for that kid.
That's
Seriously,
cool.
yeah.
Has the topic of you being a biological female come up, or
Mate,
is it
no, no.
no, it hasn't.
It's not
Okay.
gonna come up until he's old enough to understand, and that's because I don't live as a trans person. Remember that. I live as a
Right.
man. I
You
did no,
do.
no, but I did not transition to be trans. That's the other thing, you can see the difference between those people today and me. I wanted to have what we called a sex change. We used to call that, right? That I wanna
Mhm.
be a man. Today, these kids are all trans, and I'm like, "We used to hide that." Like, what the whole point was to hide your disorder, right? And to sort of move on. Now, "Oh, I'm trans." That's how I can tell it's all BS, and it's all indoctrination, and it's all become an identity choice. This isn't an identity choice. This is a medical situation that I needed to. So that being said, I don't want my son to sort of know me as a trans guy, and then I want him to know me as a dude. So eventually, when he gets to be a teenager and starts to kind of figure stuff out, then of course I'm not going to lie to him. But
Mhm.
I just, and people have interesting opinions about me. Some people think it's being dishonest to him, and some people get it. But it again, it's my space, and I just feel like that's the best way to do it, so that when he does grow up and he's old enough to understand what this is, it won't be a problem for him.
Yeah, no, I think that's the right course. I think if I were in a similar situation, my kids
Yeah.
are 6 and 4,
Yeah.
and they don't have concerns like that. Nothing like that.
Right.
Not only does it not matter, but they do not have the ability to
That's right.
really wrap their head around it at this point.
That's right.
So, like they're just trying to exist and have fun. Like everything is a game to them. So
That's
to
right.
that
How
end,
cute. Oh my God, that's the best age. My kid's 11 now, but I remember when he was 6, and it was such a,
yeah,
actually, we're looking to foster or adopt a child now. And because I'm now, see, now I'm all into it.
yep.
Next thing I have 20 kids.
Well, I remember when my wife and I were together, like kids were not really something that we like. I wanted them, but she was kind of on the fence. And then,
Yeah.
after a little while, or after our first one, it was like an explosion of love. And then the second one came, and we had stopped at our second because my youngest was born at 25 weeks, 2 days.
Oh,
So it was a very, very early birth and a lot of time in the NICU. So it kind of scared us for future pregnancies and
oh,
stuff. But
but he's okay now, the kid, right?
oh, you wouldn't even know. He's
Yeah.
he's almost as big as his 6-year-old brother. It's
Oh,
crazy.
wow. Awesome.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I did want to ask though, like, so what is your? I imagine I know what your stance is, but what is your stance on trans men and women hiding that from potential suitors when they're dating? Do you think it's something that needs to be brought up?
Yes.
Maybe not at first date, but before any sort of physical activity happens. Like it shouldn't be something
100%.
like surprise. Yeah.
Dude, that's called disclosure, right?
Right.
Come on. Like I hate it. I hate it. I hate it that anyone would think it's not okay to tell somebody. So first off, you would do that if you had like a STD or so, right? You do it. Hopefully, if you had herpes or gonorrhea, you would say something before, hopefully, or AIDS even, right? But
Yeah.
that being said, and I do equate it to that because let's say I met a woman and I look like a dude and we're into each other, but she is definitely into dudes because look at me, right? She doesn't have a
Right.
clue. I think it's rude. If we're going to go home, I don't have a penis, dude. And I
Yeah.
have a different way of being. Can you imagine if I pulled my pants down or we're going to have sex? She would lose her mind. And
Right.
that's not fit. So I always look at it from the other person's point of view. I'm okay
Yep.
with myself, right?
Yep.
But that doesn't mean, and it's not consensual, then that's not consensual sex because this is an illusion on
Mhm.
some level. And it's like I'm fooling that person. And so, it's mostly trans women who say that stuff. Like they don't have to tell who they are. And I said, well, you wonder why trans women get the crap beat out of them? Oh, Buck, you're a victim blamer. I go, a victim blamer? You're literally putting yourself in a position to
Yeah.
that. First off, men are going to be much more angry about that than women. You and I both know that. If a
Right.
dude goes home with a trans woman and doesn't have a clue,
Yeah.
some of those girls pass, dude. Like you never know. And
Yeah.
a weenie pops out. Oh, dude, sorry,
Well,
but
the funny story is I remember the first time I saw Blair White it was on a Vice panel, and I was like, someone was saying something about a trans woman, and I'm like,
where?
that person? I'm like, man, I got a question. Like, what is going on? Like, I'm feeling some kind of way right now. But this is my point on it is like, because I've heard, if you don't like if you go out on a date with a trans woman and you find out she's got a penis and you don't like it, you're transphobic. I'm like, no. Like my point is like when especially as I was getting into my like early mid 20s, late 20s, I had kids late. I wanted to have children. So if a wiener pops out, that's an automatic no-go because I can't make a kid. No matter how much sperm I put in that thing, it's not going to put, you know what I mean? So like, that's my point of view. And I think there's a lot of men out there. They're like, I want a family and I can't have a family with a guy,
That's
or not
right.
like that.
And also, whatever all of that other stuff is, shame on that trans woman. Shame on her. First off, she's not being also responsible for her own self, which is what I keep telling you. I'm responsible for what the world sees out there. And that's irresponsible on her part to even think she can go and everyone's being respectful, calling her she and doing all that, but she's not being honest, especially when a dude thinks he's dating a chick and you're not a chick, you're a trans woman, which is completely different. And
Right.
And I find it to be actually really detrimental to the health of this community, because men are going to start getting pissed off. And we know trans women have been beat up from it because, and I'm not saying it's okay. It is not okay to beat somebody up. And but I'm saying on some level, I guess what I'm trying to say is that I understand on some level why somebody would get pissed if they were they feel that they're being tricked. And then it becomes like, am I a homo? Am I homo? Right? Am I gay? And they start like freaking out on themselves.
Right. There was a question in chat that I thought was poignant. Vex also was very happy that you were here and said that you're effing amazing.
Thank you.
Sorry. What are your thoughts on dating for the younger generations and how they push for gender ideology is affecting their dating prospects and chances?
Oh, these kids, they're so goddamn entitled. I just want to die. That's me, Trampa, saying that. I go, dude, try transitioning 30 years ago, you little brat. Like, are you kidding me? So here's what I think. And, again, dating's hard. All of it. I don't care if you're trans or whatever you are. It's hard for everybody. It's a new thing. I think the kids these days are also not being honest about who they are. And I think they're really confused about their identity choices. And I think like they're really being pushed into these spaces to identify as something. And it's why these neo pronouns and everyone's like weirdo pronoun, like Z, Zem, Zer, and they're always pushing the envelope. And so I think it's difficult today with all these dating apps. I'm not pro dating apps at all. I think they're very dangerous. I think that can cause an illusion of what you might get. I think, especially, I'll say, as you all know, I come from the sex world, and I'm very pro sex, and I'm very pro I'm very pro when it comes down to understanding that people need to understand what they're getting into before they get into it. And the internet isn't doing that. So I also noticed that kids aren't having as much sex. This is in the, I guess, kids, I'm calling young people kids, but you know what I mean? Like I heard that even the desire to have sex has decreased, which has me concerned on some level, because what is that all about? Why is this desire that's a normal thing for young people to want to hook up with each other. I don't know what that's all about. So I'm not sure if I answered the question, but I think being consensual is a huge part of good sex. And I think on some level, a lot of this consensual stuff isn't happening anymore. People are becoming liars and cheaters and not being honest about who and what they are.
Yeah. And I've said before that I think there's, with other like human beings, and is as great as this conversation is, we're still missing like sitting across the table from one another, because watching someone's body language and seeing how they move, or if they're comfortable and how you can adjust, and like that's totally different, because these dating apps, it's like all I'm looking at is a superficial, like it's a representative of who this person might be, and then I swipe left or right depending on how I'm feeling in that moment. But like how I mean, dating when I was even growing up, like I'm born in 85. So like I experienced a lot of my life pre-modern internet, and like meeting people in the places that I spent my time, in coffee shops, in bookstores, in like hobby shops, in my restaurant that I would manage, like all these places are areas that I would meet people. But in real life, there wasn't this, I could hide behind a screen and pretend to be something.
That's right.
And I also think that technology in some respect is responsible for making life too easy for people. Like I'm all for streamlining the human experience, but we've lost the element of, you need to like struggle through this. Like puberty is the body's way of stressing itself to a point that it realized what it's capable of, and it's now putting you in the body that you will be in for the remainder of your life.
That's right.
And because we can skirt these issues now, we're creating a generation of very, very weak people. I don't mean to say that in a mean way, but it's like very obviously like you can't even get through puberty. You need someone to pause puberty for you. There's no hope.
No, totally. Because puberty is literally, you're going from a boy to a boy to a man, and a girl to a woman. It's it is actually the most important thing for a human being. And
it's the rite of passage.
It's the rite of passage. Not only that, I went through female puberty. Look at me. Do I look like a chick?
Nope.
Nope. And I
Nope.
can, that's how I can, that's why they don't like me. Cause I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, wait a minute here. I went through puberty. I also lived as a woman for a lot of my life. So don't you dare tell me that a child cannot get through this
Yeah.
without understanding the, without, there's no way a child should ever be taking puberty. First off, those words, blocking puberty, should never
Yeah.
even be in the same sentence, dude.
Right.
Ever, ever.
Yeah, it doesn't it like, and this is something I always go back to. It seems like an experiment
Yep.
that people are going to be asking for forgiveness on, but it's the most vile thing you can do. Like I don't doubt that there's a child out there that might benefit from it. But
Maybe.
the fact that it's almost like these clinical trials that are happening right
That's
now,
right.
I just think these poor
Wow.
kids, they don't have no choice in the matter. I don't care what adults do, by the way, Buck. I mean, you should know
I
that
know you
by
don't.
now.
I know you
I
don't.
don't care.
That's
You
right.
know,
That's
I even think, but I think like our adulthood in the United States at 18 is even pushing it. Like,
That's
I
right.
think you need to get to like 25 or 30 before you truly understand like where you're at. And this is all before, you have years worth of therapy.
Unbelievable.
That seems to be the humane thing to do. And
It is. It is 100% is. And look, I just want you to know that I'm not the only Blair White. We're not the only. There are many of us now who have reclaimed the word transsexual, who are totally out to get these people who are touching kids. We all don't care what I always use this analogy: cut your arms and legs off and become a beach ball. No one cares, dude. Bounce down the street. We all don't care. It's your life. Be what you want. But you're an adult. How dare you tell a child, first off, that they know enough? How does a child know what even a boy or a girl is if they haven't gone through puberty? Right?
right,
How can they even make that choice? They don't even know what that even means. They're
right,
going by the observation of, well, Tommy gets to play baseball and wear boy clothes and he's cool. So let Susie wear the boy clothes and play baseball. Who cares? I guarantee you she'll grow out of it. I
right.
guarantee you. And also, how come when I transitioned, nobody else did? Right?
Yep.
If it was a normal thing that was happening at that level, all the lesbians that I hung out with, who all called me a traitor and all called me all kinds of names, dude, hundreds of them, right?
Mhm.
None of them transitioned. Guess what? 20 years later, they're all emailing me, hey, Buck, I kind of want to transition. I'm like, wow, you've got to be kidding me. Yeah.
Yep.
So, I can show you that a lot of this stuff has to do with people wanting to fit in. Also with the kids, it's a full-on experiment. They are using people's kids to experiment with something that will never work, and it's all
Yeah.
money. It's all money related, all of it.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's the sad part is I see it as
Yep.
a big pharma thing, like just keeping
That's it.
kids on medication for their whole lives. Like it's,
That's right.
the vaginoplasty, like,
Oh, God, dude.
I just think, holy crap. Like, and it's some of these people I've debated have gone, have done bottom surgery as men. And I think
Yep.
like you're pushing the envelope here. Like you don't know
Wow.
what this is going to be like for the rest of your life. And they're in their 20s.
I
Like,
know.
they haven't even experienced life yet.
And
So
kids. So I introduced this one girl on my last interview, and she's 22 now, and she's never had sex, and she never will. She's never even said I felt horny. I'm like, what? She's like, no, I've never had a sexual feeling. I don't even know what that means. I've never
yeah,
had a relationship. I've never had actual sex. What? How could we do that to a child? How could we do that to another human being? Sex is part of being a human.
yeah,
It's intimacy. However you want to look at it, it's an intimacy thing that two human beings come together, and it feels good, and it's awesome, and it's loving, and maybe you want to have kids. And there's just so many levels of this that are actually sickening, that you would
yeah.
take those rights away from a child who you think you know better because you are our doctor. No, you're Dr. Frankenstein is what you are.
Yeah, I've actually one of the people I'm going to try and get on here is he's on TikTok. He's a doctor who performs gender affirming surgery, and he talks all the time and he brags about the stuff he's doing with kids. And I'm like, man,
Great.
I would love to pick this guy's brain and see like
Yeah.
why do you think? It's just I think it's a weird place to be. I think
Yeah.
it doesn't sound like he's operated on many people under the age of 18, but I
Yeah.
still I just still think it's a weird place to be.
It's still an option. And when people in our community go, they're not operating on kids, I'm like, I just interviewed two. I interviewed 2 kids who had operations under the age of 18. Are you insane? And you don't think there's more of them out there? Also, we can just use Jazz Jennings. Just use
Right.
Jazz Jennings. She's
Yep.
the biggest profile. We've watched her do everything since she was a little kid. And look at her today. She's a
Yep.
mess. That kid is a
No.
mess. It's
Yep.
horrible. Horrible.
Well, I appreciate all the work you're doing in this
Thank
space,
you.
Buck, because I think it's important. I had Sarah Higdon on a few months ago.
Great.
Love Sarah.
Love her.
And I've talked with many people in the space that are, and it's unfortunate because you guys are demonized like anytime you
Totally.
speak up. And they want inclusion, they want voices, but not your voices, you know,
Nope.
don't want that.
That's right.
And that's a shame because I think you're doing really good work and I think you come from a good place. And again, I do want to thank you for taking the time today to sit down and talk with me. I hope we can do it again. You're awesome.
Yeah,
I
let's
really
do it
appreciate
again.
it.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
no. I would love to. Anytime. Let me come on your show and talk, or maybe you should come on mine and we could do some stuff
Heck
as
yeah.
well. I think that's
Yeah.
the way to do it. And I could help you also, raise your trajectory because you're doing some good work, friend. And when you do these things, this is very important for our community because you're not in the community, but you're willing to have the conversation. And that's what I keep telling everybody. We've got to build bridges with these people. If we don't do that, we're screwed because we're a tiny little, you think what you see today in the trans community, it's all going to fall because it's all built on a false foundation. You cannot build your house on a false foundation. My foundation is solid, dude, because I walk and I talk what I preach and I have nothing to hide, but those people are hiding something. And if you notice this, you have to notice that the majority of the stuff that's coming out of the trans community are trans women. A lot of them getting into being trans at later in life, right? So they're older men becoming women and acting insane and like very fetishy. I don't know if you notice that. It's very fetishy.
Yeah.
It's like my boobs and I'm like, ew, like nobody cares. Like you want to just be a woman, then act like one because women don't go around like feeling their boobs all day.
Right.
On TikTok.
And that's like, honestly, it's one of the things I look at sometimes because my friend who's a trans woman, like I think is such a great representation of what a trans woman can be. But so many just seem like parodies of women. Like they're not even like trying to be, they just want to be like what they see on like they're trying to be RuPaul or something.
Totally.
Like what are you doing?
No, because what they're doing is fetishizing. That's where you got to see the difference. That is that AGP, right? The autogynephilia trans women, which are the ones who are really fetishizing themselves. They get off. They get off on this idea that they're a woman, and you can literally see it in them. They have this way of being and this very gross, like desire to talk about their bodies and sex, and that they're a woman, and that you don't own womanhood, or they tell women stuff like you don't own the period. I'm like, dude, do you know how many women would give you their period in 2 seconds?
You want it?
Yeah, you want to hear it? I had my period, by the way. So I'm one of the dudes that can actually talk about my period. I mean, man, we do not live in clown world. Please help us. Please, God, help.
Well, anyway, yeah. So will you let everyone know where they could find you, follow you, and if you have anything coming up that they should check out?
Sure. So everyone can find me on X at Buck Angel, and I'm on Instagram, Buck Angel. I'm actually on TikTok right now, but I'm gonna get kicked off. It's so good. That's Mr. Buck Angel. My YouTube channel is Buck Angel Official, and reach out. Anybody here wants to reach out and ask any questions, please do. I'm very open to that, and I want to build bridges with all of you. And I really don't want you to see what you see out there as the representation of trans. So Tom having me on really means a lot to me, and I do appreciate it very much.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's been a great conversation. Chat, thank you so much for hanging out. And everyone who's listened on other platforms, we really appreciate you. That is it for this week. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Something just occurred to me. Buck is an awesome person, but I've never sat around afterwards and talked about my interviews. Should I do something like that? I don't know. I appreciate everyone for being here, by the way. It was a really great interview. Buck is a really great person for accepting the invitation, and also like talking with someone who is just a smaller creator like myself. I think it's a really great thing that I think more people need to do. Hey, what's up, everybody? Quarter Black, good to see you. Bonzo, what's up? Jack, what's going on, man? No, I don't want you to yell at me. Hashbond, thanks for hanging out. I know Vex was here. Epic Mike was here. I appreciate you guys for doing this. I'm gonna put a little thing. No, I think what Buck is doing is super important in the grand scheme of things. It's just people need to start like just talking about. Well, they need to start talking with people, as many people as they can. Mainstream media seems to demonize people like Buck and Sarah Higdon when they want to speak up about their stories, and when they. Why was there a hard out? Buck only had an hour, so I had to stop. Thanks, Paul. I appreciate it, man. And I think I wish of course I thought the conversation was really, really organic and good. I had no qualms about the interview. I didn't feel awkward. Buck made me feel really comfortable. What I wanted to get to was more the dynamic in him being a father, and me being a father, and how those things might be a little bit different. And I did think it was, super cool that he, is doing the stepdad thing, and also his want to adopt. Again, I think the adoption part of childcare right now, and finding homes for kids, is really important. It's something that's overlooked. It's something that obviously pro-choice people will combat pro-life people with. So what about all these people in foster care? So I hope Buck's able to follow through with that, and find a home for someone. But I appreciate his openness. I think the one good thing about Buck is he's not afraid to speak, speak the truth, but also he's not afraid of being hit with hard questions. And it's actually when I saw him on the Charlie Kirk debate night, I thought, man, he is really, he's got some balls to get on stage with him, because I think Charlie Kirk he can be ruthless, and that's part of his shtick and what he does. So I was really glad to see that interview, and him take the stage like that, especially one-on-one. It is not easy to go toe to toe with someone and have someone who doesn't share your views really sort of like, hammer you home. So yeah, no, it was a great interview, and it's really great that you guys were able to catch it. It was funny because him and I had gone back and forth, and we had missed a few interviews together. I had messed up on a date. I think he had messed up on a date. But we finally, I think 3 months later, got together. But yeah, no, it was really good. Oh shit. Bonzo with the $20 super chat. I want to chat part 2, especially with the dad topic. I'll choose to believe your lies. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. No, I think with, hopefully him and I can connect again, and, maybe I can go over on his show and talk with him, or definitely have him back at some point and do part 2. Cause I think getting into, his life as a dad, and even how that maybe affects him on a social level, like how do people approach him, from the outside looking in, like, hey, you're a trans man. Why are you, like, should you be raising a kid? And I'm sure there's people who think he shouldn't be. And I didn't press him on the issue of telling his kid, but it's something that telling his kid that he is a trans man. But he made a really good point. He he's a man. Like, he is a biological female that's living his life as a man, and that's it. And that's at this point in his child's life, that's all that matters. And I thought it was really well said that, I mean, that's where he is. That's who he is. You know, I'm a biological female. I am living my life as a man. Really, really, really good. Funny Pump, what's up? Awesome interview, Shags. You got some serious host XP, and Buck was legit cool. Yeah, I'm really, that went well. I can't take full credit. I did have some people help me with a few of the subject matters in the questions that really helped sort of carry this. So big shouts to them. But yeah, I think sitting down and having a good, successful interview with Buck definitely helped boost confidence a little bit. And yeah, no, it was good. Yeah, Hash, that's a good point. Kind of like Santa Claus. Yeah. And I thought the same thing about like pushing the Santa Claus thing with my kids. I'm like, man, am I lying to them? Like, is this bad? Should I be doing this? And, you know, I realize, I mean, kids just, they don't think of lies in the same way that adults do. You know, like lying to them for years about Santa Claus. It's a much different thing, because I mean, I think if you tricked your kid who was like 13, 14 into continuing to believe that lie, I think then you're stepping into some sticky territory. But I think, I mean, kids from when they're born to when they find out at what, 7, 8, 9, that it's probably not a thing, 9, 10, probably 9 or 10, 8, 9, 10. My aunt, I remember my aunt had this roommate. I think I can get Buck back. I think today went well enough that I think he'd be willing to come back on. But yeah, no, it was good. I was nervous to start for sure, but Buck made me feel comfortable. Chat made me feel good. Like I said, Bonzo, you helped out with some stuff, so I appreciate that. And thank you again. Thank you, Bonzo, for the $20 super chat. That's really awesome. Thank you. Didn't sting when I realized. Yeah. No, it's I think there's, I mean, I think people know, like in their gut, when they've taken a lie too far with their kids, and when it could be possibly damaging, quote unquote. But I don't think that I don't think that the Santa Claus thing is something to worry about. And I think he's right. I think there's a point where his son will be in a place where he'll understand and be like cool with it. I don't think it's going to come to like, oh, you lied to me for so long. It's not going to change who Buck is. You know, I think those things happen when people talk about how they've been lied to by their parents and they somehow have this breakdown in trust. I think there's a deeper thing happening. There's a deeper thing happening than like a lie about, like, if Jonah, Buck's son, felt betrayed by him telling him in like 5 or 6 years that he's a trans man, if he's somehow upset by that, I think there's something deeper happening. I don't think it has anything to do with that specific thing. Just like misgendering someone, like there's so much more going on in someone's head than, oh, you called me the wrong pronoun. Like that's, I mean, it's not that one thing. That's, I mean, there's other things that have eroded the foundation underneath them and caused, the mental breakdown. So it is what it is. The kid has support from so many people. I doubt it will affect the child as opposed to a single parent home. Yeah, no. And that's the thing, is like, he's got a good foundation, good home. Like, Buck would an exhausting positive, what? Would have, you're missing a letter there or something. I can't even like figure out what you're trying to say. What did sting was being told my stepdad was my real dad until I was 13. That is an actual lie. Yeah, that I can see as something a bit more traumatizing, for sure. It's so weird. People have co-opted these words to like mean something different, like trauma. I don't even like saying the word traumatizing anymore, because I think there's very few things in the world that are actually traumatizing. But people will throw that around now, like, oh, I was traumatized by that. Like, really? Like, a world shattering like event that totally like altered your personality. I mean, that is probably something I would, but the way people say it nowadays, I'm just like, holy crap. Buck would be an exhausting positive parent. Oh, okay. You still spelled words wrong. Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. That I agree. I agree. Hash. I agree. I'm just saying, like when I say that word traumatizing, that I get this icky feeling, like that. What like was that really? You know, what was that joke someone made? Like it was hilarious. Like hilarious means it was so funny you almost lost your mind. Like everyone says that all the time. Oh, that was hilarious. You can't cope anymore because of something you heard. That's how I think of the word traumatizing. Were you traumatized by a pronoun? Maybe I'll start doing that. Maybe I'll start doing my own little after show. Normally we do a recorded after show segment for people on locals. Um, um, but we can't today because he had to cut out early. He's a busy man. Hysterical, yeah, maybe that's the word I was thinking. Whatever. But no, I think that's good. I think that was a good interview. I appreciate everyone for spending their time and listening to this this interview. But I will for sure be putting it up on Spotify. I was able to save a couple of segments, clips. For those who don't know, the Midweek Hump is like sort of doing this transformative format a little bit. We are going to the Wednesday night shows that starts at 9 p.m. Mountain Time is going to morph into a combination of our panel discussions, talking about things that we like, we don't like, things that we're actively involved in and creating. And on top of that, the after show, which takes place over on Rumble, is going to become open to members. So please keep that in mind as you guys are deciding whether or not you want to re-up your membership with the channel. If you want to support or just be a part of the discussion, you guys could get in on some of these topics on Wednesday evening. If you guys are channel members, so I'll put out a community post with the link in there. If you are any tier membership to start, the if you happen to be in there, if you happen to be a member, would love to have you guys in on the discussion and give you guys opportunity to join and sit and talk for however long. So be on the lookout. That stuff is coming starting tomorrow. We don't have a guest tomorrow. We're just kind of hanging out and just chilling. Maybe we'll send a link out to a bunch of random people, and if they want to show up, great. We always have fun when people are just randomly available. So thank you guys again for being a part of this channel, for believing in the stuff that I do. I am going to be done for the day. I appreciate you. Thank you, Funny Pump. Thank you, Bonzo. Hash Pond, thanks for hanging out. We had Jack Tarlad in here as well. Paul Hadouken stopped by. Quarter Black Garrett as well. I saw Mike Has Bad Knees, Vex Electronica, and I did see Epic Left Eye Ego was here. Good to see you, mate. Really good to see you. And I think that is everybody. That's it for me. I'll see you guys next time. I appreciate you. Goodbye.